all those movies came out, which said the ruins of Noah's Ark was on the peak of Mount Ararat. But what he was showing on his video was about 18 miles from Mount Ararat in the lower mountains of Ararat. And I thought, well, how does this work? Didn't the Ark land on Mount Ararat itself? And so I was a little bit of a skeptic, but I began following the story over many years, and finally contacted the man who today is the #1 Ark researcher alive on the planet. And he and I became friends. And I made a trip to take my entire film crew and spent 2 weeks with him in the lower mountains of Ararat, about 18 miles from Mount Ararat, which, by the way, is a stratovolcano, which means most of what you see in Mount Ararat today did not exist at the time of the flood.
Wow. It's
a stratovolcano. It's built up over thousands of years. But the Bible never says the Ark landed on Mount Ararat. It says it landed in the mountains of Ararat. And the mountains of Ararat are enormous. So I went there, I began to do my research, and I went to see what they claimed were the ruins of Noah's Ark. And when I got there and saw it with my own eyes, all skepticism left.
You were convinced.
I was absolutely convinced. And especially when you look at it from the perspective of a drone, you are looking at the outline of a ship. It's a ship.
Yeah.
Now, it first became visible in 1948, after there was a big earthquake in the month of May, the same month that Israel became a nation.
Okay, so reword that. That's so significant that this was discovered in May in 1948, the same time Israel became a nation.
It was like two prophetic signals.
Noah's Ark is discovered.
So,
how?
Well, there was this big earthquake, and the top of the dirt was like shifted, and when the top of the dirt went away, there was this outline of a ship. And there's a Kurdish village there, and they were the ones who first noticed it. And then over 10 years, the ship became more prominent, and they were flying over the area to make aerial photography, to make new maps of the area, because that area was close to the Soviet Union, and it was right on the border of Iran.
A lot of turmoil going on.
A lot of turmoil. Yeah. And when they got the aerial photographs back, the man in charge of the photographs, his name was Captain de Rupenaar. When he saw this, he said, "What?" He said, "That is a ship." They sent the photos to Dr. Brandenberger at Ohio State University, who was the #1 specialist in aerial photography in the world, and the man who identified the site of the Cuban missile sites in Cuba.
Is that right?
So, I mean, there was nobody better. And when he saw it, he said, "I have no question at all. This is a ship. This is a ship in the mountains of Ararat." So that's when all the research began.
What is a ship doing?
In the mountains of Ararat.
In the mountains of Ararat.
You know, it's funny. So I was there, and I said to the Ark researcher, I said, "Are you absolutely sure this is Noah's Ark?" He said, "Well, let me answer it like this. It is 300 cubits long." And he said, "I can't think of another massive ship that would be in the mountains of Ararat. Can you?" People have been looking at the wrong place all this time. On the peak of Mount Ararat, no one's ever been able to go back to the same spot. Nobody's ever been able to return there. It's because it's not there. That is not where it is. It's across the valley on the lower mountains. Scientists came from around the world, and little by little, they're beginning to line up to acknowledge, you know what? This really is a man-made structure. Now, there's been a lot of opposition to it for several reasons. Number one, the Turkish government doesn't like to give a lot of attention to that part of Turkey because it's a conflict zone, and that's where the Armenians claim that it was once their territory, so they don't like to pay attention to that part of the country. But the scientists are now lining up, and they have now done so many ground-penetrating radar ERT scans, and the technology has become so good that now you can literally see 3 decks, lots and lots of rooms, and the newest analysis, Alan, shows a tunnel which goes from the bow of the ship right through the middle, all the way on the way to the bow of the ship, and that tunnel is not completely filled in. This particular person who looked at this technician said that tunnel is still sufficiently empty that if you could get to it, you could probably walk through part of it. These things just don't occur in nature. And you can see the timbers of the ship, you can see the ribs of the ship, and they appear in periodic, parallel shape, which never appears in nature. It just doesn't happen. And when you get there and you see the ship, it is so enormous. It's overwhelming when you look at it and you realize the assignment that God gave to Noah. It is massive, massive. Now, the sides of the ship have kind of flayed out over all the years. That happens in all ancient ships. That the length is the same, and if you put those walls back in the original position, and you can do that with computer technology, it identically matches the dimensions which are given to us in Genesis chapter 6. It is Noah's Ark.